All right, you all. I'm your host tonight. Yeah. All right, we are not able to get to all of our questions, but we're going to get to the bulk of the questions that were asked by you all. You all asked great questions, and I want to invite you all to stay after class to speak with our guests if you have time, and if not, the questions that were asked, we'll make sure we follow up. But I just want to thank Tobin and Wayne and Jim. You see, I kind of worried about that. Yeah. So I want to thank you all for this opportunity to ask these questions, and I'm going to jump right in. Talk about recycling. That's always like a hot topic, and feel free to converse between you all as well. The question is, how much recycled materials are not really recycled, and what isn't?
I love this question. It comes up all the time because there's a lot of misinformation out there about recycling. You hear different things from different people, and there are some reasons for that because there are different capabilities with different recovery facilities. I mean, recycling is complicated, as Tobin mentioned. It can be complicated. But a quick answer to this, and the short answer to this, is that all materials that are recyclable, virtually all materials that are recyclable get recycled if you put it in the cart. Some caveats to that. So recyclables are commodities. So your glass, your aluminum, your steel, paper, your cardboard, they all have value. Well, we have to pay for glass to get recycled, but that's a different story. So they all have value, but that value can be destroyed if things are put in with it that messes it up. So if cardboard gets contaminated with some kind of food waste, or there's some kind of liquid that gets in, it can spoil. We've had truckloads get spoiled because people put the wrong thing in their blue carts. And that contamination is a huge problem in recycling right now. So that's one thing I want to encourage everybody here. I didn't really talk about during my presentation, but be mindful of what you're recycling. The guidance used to be, if you think it's recyclable, put it in your recycling, and now it's, if in doubt, throw it out, because that contamination's that important. It's that destructive to the recyclables that are in there. And some of the main ones we see are a lot of people put their recyclables in plastic bags. Do not do that. No plastic bags in the recycling at all. They're not recyclable. They jam up the machinery at the processing facility. If you put a bunch of plastic, or if you put a bunch of recyclables in a plastic bag and it doesn't get kind of open during the collection and the delivery process, the people at the recovery facility are just going to toss it in the trash because they don't know what's in it. They don't want to open it and get hypodermic needles or something like that. So that plastic bag piece is by far the biggest one. And people assume any type of plastic is recyclable, and that's not the case. People put bowling balls in there, not recyclable. People put garden hoses in there is a big one, not recyclable. Electrical cords. Yeah. So a lot of things just are, we encourage people to keep it simple. So there are certain things are recyclable. Your milk cartons, your cardboard boxes, your glass containers, your soup cans, rinsed out, stuff like that is recyclable. Go ahead and recycle that. If you're not sure, you can look it up in the Waste Wizard. If you're still not sure, put it in the trash.
And a lot of it.
Sorry, I was just going to say real quick. Jim mentioned about plastic bags, and while you can say drop them off at the grocery store or whatever, and they can get recycled by themselves back into something, the far better option, they're sitting around the room here, the reusable bags. Instead of having them at all, just avoid getting them and go with reuse because that's higher up in the hierarchy. So.
And at the end of the day, a lot of it's education, just information sharing and learning. And sometimes people bring information or knowledge they have from where they lived previously, bring that to where they live now. But I like the, when in doubt, throw it out. out is probably the best solution. So you spoke about plastic quite a bit, so this is perfect for our next question. What is done with plastic? And while you talk about that, tell us about where the landfill is located.
Sure. I can take this one again.
Okay,
Or
okay.
start off here. So it depends. It depends on the type of plastic. And so a lot of people ask us about the numbers on things, right? The numbers are kind of helpful sometimes, but you can't just say, oh, this is a number 3, this is recyclable, boom. There are certain plastics that are recyclable, basically, you know, like your laundry detergent bottles, those are recyclable. Those kind of harder plastics like that, again, your milk cartons, stuff like that. But those flimsy plastic pieces, a lot of times are not recyclable, and especially like plastic film. Not recyclable in your blue cart, let me put it that way. There are different, basically everything's recyclable in one way or another, but I'm talking about stuff to put in your blue recycling cart. So yeah, a lot of plastic actually, or a fair bit of plastic actually does get recycled. But again, it has to be the right kind of plastic. And then other plastic, there's a lot of plastic that goes to the landfill, and there's a lot of plastic that ends up in places it shouldn't be. I mean, everybody's seen that, you know, those pictures of stuff in the ocean and stuff like that. So, you know, that reduction in use of plastic is the key.
And you know, the big thing you had talked about, the other materials, recyclables are commodities, basically. Just like things trade on markets, you know, grain, corn, they're commodities, steel, so on. Same thing with recyclables, because they're recycled back into new products. And so the value of them goes up and down depending on the supply and demand, just like other commodities. And that's part of what we have to send to the recycling processor, the facility that sorts the material, the things that they accept. And there are, you mentioned other areas in the country, and it's true, there will be communities where they recycle different things than we do, and maybe more things even. We try and be cautious and make sure we don't ever want to add something that then the processor says, oh, we can't accept that anymore. Because then that just leads to confusion, and we try and be pretty consistent with what we do.
But then the other part of that is creating that demand. So when you are, first don't buy it if you don't need it, but if you do need it, buy something that's made from recycled plastic. Then you're contributing to that demand for recycled products. And there's a lot of stuff out there now that you can get that's recycled. You'd also asked about where the landfill is, which
Yeah,
is,
so that's in Sampson County, so that's a good 90-mile one-way trip, which we send, there's a lot of trailers that go down there every day. It's a lot of, you know, talk about a greenhouse gas contributor. That's another plug for reducing, you know, the less stuff that we have to send down to the landfill, the better. Now, there are closer landfills, and could talk about, you know, the way that the contract works with our operator at the transfer station right now. It's a complicated situation, but some of the closer landfills couldn't handle our volume when we were first, you know, getting this done. It's also, so Durham used to have its own landfill. We have a closed landfill at the Waste Disposal and Recycling Center. They extract gas from it right now and convert that to energy too. But once upon a time, that transfer station was built as a temporary measure while a new landfill was going to be sited somewhere in Durham. And right about then, it became pretty much impossible to site a new landfill in North Carolina. So there's a limited number of landfills here now. The state says, you know, if you want to try and site a new one, it probably takes about 20 years to get one done. So there's a limited number. They have limited lifespans. It's going to be an issue at some point.
So we'll get some information I think we said we could send out, but putting in a plug again for the project we mentioned earlier, a reuse hub. One of the big things we want to do is really focus on what else we can pull out of the waste stream. So instead of having it go on that 90-mile road ride down I-40, you know, mattresses, scrap wood, sheetrock, shingles, furniture, things that someone may be able to do something with locally, that helps out in so many ways, not just the fact that it's being kept at a landfill, but we're looking to try and help small businesses get started, to create things with what is now getting sent as waste. There's job creation opportunities, there's entrepreneurship opportunities, there can be job training opportunities, reentry programs for previously incarcerated individuals that can get them back into the workforce, provide some training and so on. So we're just at the very early stages. We have an individual in our office who is working on that. That's her only job. We had some handouts that I was supposed to bring, but they're sitting on the front seat of my car.
It's okay.
So that's why we'll get that to send out. But we're really excited about that, and we think it's going to be a great opportunity.
And there's a lot of conversation I know we can continue to have around those issues, and we definitely will share out that information for sure. And I know that conversation about the landfill will probably spark some
Yeah.
questions and generate something in the brain, but we went to the conversation about reduction. Reduction kept being the word that was used by everyone here, and that actually ties to our next question. What are some of the biggest obstacles to meeting the greenhouse reduction plan goals? And are there any other community or commercial incentives for businesses to commit to more sustainable practices? I can ask that second question after you answer that first question. but yeah, let's focus on the greenhouse.
The hardest thing I think is change is hard. People are just used to doing the thing they're doing, and it's easier to hop in our car by ourselves and go where we want to go and have that freedom than to try to find the bus schedule, find a carpool buddy, or plan out our day better so we're not driving back and forth and back and forth. So a lot of it is just really hard to get people to change. People are inundated constantly with things they're being told to do, and they have to care about, the animals and the people and that, right? It's just a lot of stuff. I feel it too. And so it's, it's just really hard. I think also, our community right now, quite honestly, is not designed very well for bikers and walkers. It's a car community, and the South is like that. And we don't have, our bus systems and our metros and whatever. We do have bus systems, our train systems and all of that. And so it is challenging to get around. And I'm talking most about transportation because you saw that was the biggest piece of the pie. For buildings, what's challenging, again, it's just hard to get people to change things. People would rather pay to have new marble countertops put in because they look pretty than they want to pay to put insulation in their attic that no one will see. And I'm not judging anyone, right? But that's true. People want to spend money on things that make them happy, and looking at something pretty is going to make them happy. For me, I like to know I'm not, spewing my energy that I'm paying for out into the world, but not everyone feels that way that I do. And it does cost money, and a lot of people don't have that money. They're already stretched really thin. Housing is expensive, so there's a lot of factors that go into that. But I will add the statewide thing. As I mentioned, in North Carolina, we are what's called a not home rule state, and so it means that unless the legislature specifically says you can do this, local government, we can't do it. And sometimes we do things, and then they say, oh, wait, you can't do that anymore. We've had that happen. Somebody asked what was the bad news I heard today. The new budget proposal just took away our rights, basically, to put any kind of fee or ban on plastic bags or styrofoam, which is something people have been working on here for a long time. So we thought we could do it, and now we can't do it. So that is a big challenge, and that's true for building codes. So there are building codes that how you can build a building, right, and how energy efficient it has to be. And building codes are the worst building you're legally allowed to build, right? They're not, that's like the worst. And so North Carolina's energy code for residential goes back to 2009. We are in 2023. There have been, I think, 3 updates since then on the International Building Code, and our legislature has not adopted those codes. And in fact, because of that, this last one they didn't adopt means North Carolina is going to lose out on a whole bunch of money related to emergency response and things like that, because basically the federal government is saying, if you can't make your building stock, stand up to whatever's coming at it, why should we keep bailing you out? So it's actually a huge financial problem. And why did they agree to not increase the building codes? A lot of it, I'm just going to speak freely here, is, there are interests that don't want that to happen, and they lobbied harder than the interests that did want it. That's how politics works. That's no secret. But that's why I say, be involved, vote, but be involved, be knowledgeable, find out what's going on. talk to your friends and neighbors about it. It really does matter. It sounds arcane, like building codes, what? I don't know, but it really does affect us. And the buildings we build now, we're gonna have for 50, 60, 70 years, right? Those buildings are gonna be here in 2100, and they're still gonna be 2009 building codes, so those are problems.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about something good.
Yeah.
Yay! We'll go that way.
Good segue.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I mean, it's solar farm. That's on the right. Yay! So let's talk a little bit more about the solar farms. And where's the site located? And talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So it's actually located in Alamance County, which is not very far away. It's not in Durham County, but that's where there was land available. That's where some other things were happening, where Duke Energy can accept that amount of electricity coming in on the grid. So we're actually pretty lucky that it's in Alamance. Some people who have gone through this program have to build solar fields really, really far away. So I feel pretty happy about that. As I mentioned, it's like in the financing part. They're going to start construction soon, and then it'll go into production in 2025.
Well, that sounds cheery.
Yes.
Excited,
Right.
and then Solarized Durham and all that good stuff. So yay,
There are great
Durham.
things going on.
Those positive things. Let's stay positive. Okay. Speaking of other positive things, Wayne, let's talk about how we can shout out employees for the great work that they're doing. That is something that was asked. Where can we give a shout out and say thank you to your employees?
Well, I mean, the city has social media pages, so there's certain things that come in on there. Feel free to send us an email, and we can get it directly to the folks that are out on the streets, because we see them when they come back in at the end of the day.
Can I do a quick plug to that? We have an internal newsletter that gets sent out to employees, so whenever we see something on social media that shouts them out, we include it there to make sure.
Oh, that's
I was coming to that. So,
And we also could, if you have feedback on a specific employee, we can put things in their performance evaluation system that, gives them credit for getting positive feedback. So even if it's a truck number that you catch or something like that, send it on.
tell us what route, what day and your address, and we can know what route it was and then know who was driving it. So we can,
Yeah, people always said, people don't complain about things until you don't have it, or there's a problem with it, so let's keep the good news going. So, speaking of your employees, there's a question about the recent strike. We've learned that there were a lot of vacancies in the department. Why is it hard to fill those vacancies for your department?
So this is one of the things that I think has been misunderstood throughout this process, because the city has a lot of vacancies. The Public Works Department, the Water Department, I think,
planning department.
very much struggled with vacancies. In our department, we've got 10 vacancies, one being the director, one being somebody who works at the Waste Disposal and Recycling Center. So we've got basically 8 operational vacancies in our collections team. And most of those are collectors. So we have drivers that drive the vehicles, obviously, and then we have collectors those are the folks that work on the crew, as a part of the crew on the back of the truck and bring the carts. One of the things that we do as just a matter of practice in our department is promote from within. So if we hire somebody as a collector, we will help them get a CDL if they want to get a CDL. When a driver position comes open, they can then apply, become a driver. We have specialized trucks that are what they call the automated trucks. So those of you that see, so it's just the one person driving the truck, and the arm comes out and picks up and dumps, and that's a specialized kind of higher level driving needed for that special training. So again, promote from within, and it's worked really well for us. We're able to keep our driver positions filled very well. So yeah, 8 vacancies out of about 90 collections employees is we're on the more fortunate end of what a lot of city departments are seeing right now. And it's also helpful for us that for those particular types of positions, we're able to get temps when there's a shortfall. So because a temp worker can't drive, but they can work on the back of the truck, and that's been very effective for us as well.
And I think one of the other things that there's a bit of a misperception too, we have the vacancies. We always have people out though. They're on vacation, they're on sick leave, they're out on family and medical leave. Unfortunately, we do have a few injuries, so people may be off for a period of time. So we need sometimes to bring temps in to help out on getting the routes completed when someone's out for those reasons as well. But it's not a vacancy, it's just they're not available to work on a given day.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing that insight. Due to timing, we're going to, start to wrap up our conversation. I'm going to end with the last question for Tobin. It's about geothermal energy. What building/community is being supplied with energy produced from geothermal energy?
Yeah, so geothermal, in case you don't know what that is pipes get drilled down into the ground, and the ground is kind of a constant temperature of about 60, 65 degrees, and liquid, either water or some other kind of liquid, gets pumped through it, and if it's hot up here, hotter than that 60, 65 degrees, then that heat dissipates under there, and when it circulates back, it's cooler, and then you can circulate that through the building and cool the building off, and vice versa. If it's cold up here, it goes down there and gets the heat and brings it back up. So it basically helps with your reducing your heating and cooling loads is how that works. And so surprisingly, the Pompieri Pizza and Bull City Burger and Brewery, actually, that whole building complex has geothermal. They had to drill right outside my office for like 8 months. But for the county, our first geothermal building is the new youth home. It's up on Broad Street, kind of by Duke Regional Hospital. And that building's going to also have solar on it. So it's a 24/7 facility, and so there's a lot of energy use there, obviously. And so having that building be extra energy efficient is going to be great.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Are there any final thoughts that you want to share with the group? And of course, we'll follow up with any of the questions that were not answered tonight. Do you all have anything that you want to leave the group with regarding your topic areas?
No, I just want to say it makes me so happy to just sit out here and look at you all. Thank you so much for taking your time to learn about what the city and county do. It's really heartwarming to me.
Well, thank you all again. Thank you all for your great questions, and we appreciate another great night. Great information.